So here we are. Hello, everybody, to the Fry's live stream. Today we have Fuja 0815. If you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm just Jan. Currently working on the project as a programmer. I mean, I'm still a student, but I try to help the project out, as far as I can. So, I mean, this is actually my first podcast I'm contributing to, so hi.
And yeah, Fuja is a great programmer. He's the one working on our binding agents at the moment. Next, we have Hirelainen, our team lead programmer. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Hirelainen, and yeah, as Buckley said, I'm the programming team lead, and I do programming on Thrive, and also I review all of the code to be added to the game.
And next we have Istajuro, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you'd like to.
Yeah, I'm Istajuro. I'm another programmer. I'm still a student too, and this is also my first podcast. I'm just working on general stuff like spawn systems and some new features, so I might drop in again. All right.
And then we have the Nuns, our graphics programmer.
Yeah, I'm Nuns. I do the graphics, or at least some of them. And right now I'm doing the code for the 3D membranes. Should be done soon.
Alright, and I suppose I should introduce myself as well. I'm Buckley. I am the game design team lead. I try to make sure everything's balanced and presentable. And with that, I suppose we'll move on.
Nice.
So, let me go ahead and take a look at something.
Wait, are we just gonna be pulling questions from the chat?
I
not
think
quite yet.
We'll start with the patch notes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, what was done. I also saw someone in chat saying that my mic was coming out only on the left channel. I set my mic input to mono, so maybe it's now both channels.
I can hear from both ears.
The key bang. Oops.
I went and found the patch notes if
Buckle up. Oh yeah, there's
They
patch
are.
notes.
they are needed.
Patch notes.
Do you want to be reading off the patch notes, Buckley?
I suppose so.
I mean, I can go over some if you want me to.
Well, I don't want to push it on you, so I'll go ahead.
All right.
So we got quite a lot done in this release. I'm sure you are glad to hear. First of all, big thing is translations. That's huge, really, if you ask me. Because now we have, what was it? How many languages do we have?
Wait,
Dude, let me check.
It's quite a few.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
27
7, 8.
languages.
Okay.
Yeah, I just pulled up the log. 27 languages. 27 languages, 61% translated, so pretty good.
Excellent.
Minus,
So,
of
yeah.
course, the languages that are 0% done. There's 4
yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
Next, we have key binding, which, as you know, presents a great amount of customization for your control scheme.
I
and a
don't know key
process panel.
binding. I only know key buying.
All right. And right, so we got the process panel, which will allow you to see your processes in action, which might help you out trying to figure out what's going wrong in your cell. It's also no longer possible to make cells with disconnected hexes, which, yeah, mutation code will also check for that. When exiting the editor, organelles now move around the center of mass. If I'm not mistaken, that means they kind of line themselves towards the center.
It
Might
means
have to
like
get an example of that soon.
I'm pretty sure like if you like removed your center organelle and moved your entire cell to the left, like placed all your organelles on the left, when you re-enter, it's going to be centered.
Oh, I see. Curious.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
technically it calculates the center point of all of the hexes, and then it applies that as like the transformation, so it moves all of the hexes so that the center hex is at 0, 0 always.
And it looks like Mirror Monkey joined us.
Yes, hello guys.
Yes, hello, welcome.
Nice to hear you again. It's been a long time since I heard you. Sorry, just carry on where you were.
All right. This is Mirror Monkey, one of our programmers. Wait, is he our programmer? Hold on, let me look.
No, I'm a
No.
very sparsely contributing.
Graphics artist. My apologies.
No problem.
All right, so where was I? All right, so next we have wall-type membranes now prevent itself from engulfing. That means if you're a plant, you're not going to be a predator. Sorry, folks. Tooltip system improvements. So, what was that?
Yeah, nothing. Sorry.
My apologies. So, the tooltips are now relative to the currently selected membrane. What that means is that your stats will be, well, relative to your current membrane. We had some.
I can explain a bit more. So the reason that was added because some people were confused that this one membrane is 20% like speed bonus over the default membrane and not your current membrane. So now it is relative to the current membrane. So hopefully no one is confused by the numbers anymore.
Quite excellent. We also had some big changes to the saving system, which should reduce the load time for our game, hopefully. However, this is going to make previous saves incompatible with the current version.
Mm-hmm.
It's now possible to pan the camera in the editor, which will allow you to make bigger cells if you are so inclined.
If I'm not mistaken, I think use the arrow keys to pan.
The arrow keys, and you can press the middle mouse button and just drag it around.
Okay, so that means you have to now rotate organelles with WASD.
Yeah, you have to rotate with A and D.
Yep.
Extinct species are now mentioned more clearly. Fixed places where 0 or negative delta could cause problems. Could you point out to me what exactly delta is?
Yeah, basically the game has a bunch of code that runs every game update, and that receives the amount of time since the last update. And due to some pretty dumb design choices in Godot, it is sometimes 0 or even negative. So Godot is telling Drive that, hey, the past time is actually negative since the last update, and that's obviously pretty wrong. So I added a bunch of checks to make sure that no update code is run if the time elapsed is 0 or negative. For example, the process system should no longer sometimes result in dividing by 0.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that explanation, Harlenin. So next, I lost my place in the patch notes. It's quite the extensive list. we presumably fixed a bug with the floating chunk preventing saving. So if you still get an error, please let us know, because it would be helpful to see that going on.
And people did find that issue, but it seems to be now rarer. Instead, there's a new similar issue. So I mean, we need to find out what's like the underlying problem there.
Then we have. Next, we have a pop-up warning when playing in GLES2 mode. Configuring the username for saves is now possible, so you can rename your save files. Added back the arrow showing forward direction in the editor. Now this is quite nice, as some people are confused on which face of the cell was the front-facing one. The arrow will now let you know which face is the front face. It's quite helpful. Sorting non-useful compounds is now blocked. That means that if you do not use iron, you cannot consume it. Added a new button in the main menu to open our GitHub, so you can go quite quickly right to where the files are. A new button to open the screenshots folder, so you'll be able to more easily find that. It can be hard for some people to locate it. We added a button to go to the translations website, so you can now more easily find the sources of our translations and contribute. We fixed a bug with loading a save where the editor was available. Now the editor button is correctly enabled after loading such a save. Music track fading has been improved. Fixed quick loading while quick loading causes issues. Quick loading is now prevented if load is already in progress. Floating chunks now use a more accurate convex collision shape. New input system to make it easier to add future code. Fixed win and loss screens not being centered. Loading a save will now loading a save made in the editor now remembers which editor tab was open, so you won't be losing your place. The load menu is now more robust against broken or invalid format saves. External effects are now saved. Cell reproduction progress is now saved properly. Relative cell statistics now work correctly after loading a save. Editor undo history is now saved and loaded. In other words, there are a lot of things that are saved now. Othering other excuse me?
I think there's more stuff. A lot of work on the saves.
Oh, indeed so. Othering other compounds that show as 0.0 are now no longer shown. Quick save in micro stage is prevented before stage entry is finished. Loading screen now has randomized tips. Not that many people will be seeing the loading screen, I hope. Auto Evo configuration is now loaded with JSON or JSON for easier tweaking.
I think it's JSON, usually said.
My apologies. Invalid place sound is no longer played if you click below the patch map. I never noticed that. Saving status message no longer prevents clicking any GUI buttons. Saving status message now fades out smoothly. Labels on a mutation bar now have colors, quite pretty. Random states is now saved and loaded. Added fallback fonts for translations that need special characters not present in normal fonts. Added new Easter egg messages to replace duplicates. ATP damage sound is now not played if a cell is dead. Gonna be a lot less noisy, that's for sure. Added option to run auto evo only after pressing the editor button. Health bar now properly goes to 0 if the player is dead. No more zombie cells. Player dying now explicitly disables the editor button. Renamed Lux to LX. Game version is now printed to logs on startup. Loading a completely incompatible save is now entirely prevented. Quick loading a save made with a different version is now blocked. These saves need to be loaded from the load game menu. We fixed a typo in the bioluminescent vacuole name. Auto Evo now only starts. Wait, huh? Is there a duplicate in there? Death build upload script now has more retries on upload failure. The thermoplast tooltip now mentions that it is unimplemented. Fixed one patch having incorrect environmental gas amounts. Fixed help menu mentioning the wrong number of years passing. Repo improvements. Hooked up website for the community to help translate the game. Whew, that's quite a lengthy list.
So I have a question regarding that one point with the auto evo. That it says that if the auto evo can only happen if there is an auto save, right?
I think it loads after. No, yeah, you got it, AJ.
It is now so that auto evo only starts after the autosave is done. So
interesting.
Yeah, basically because like the auto evo state is very complex, so the game doesn't even try to save it. So there's no point in like starting it before you make the autosave, because if the player loads the autosave, the progress is lost. So
interesting. And so does it improve performance like this?
I mean, maybe, because the autosave is probably a pretty heavy operation, so it helps if the auto evo isn't running in the background yet.
Makes sense.
Alright, so are there any assets that we'd like to show off to the people today? I know Nuns has been working on some very pretty things lately.
I mean, you can show them off from the graphics channel, I guess. Let me see
I
if
think you should put them in the podcast channel. I think
yeah, I'll
that's cool.
grab them.
Only if you want to, of course.
No, that's cool. I guess I'll show this off first.
I think someone did mention they'd like to see some work done on the Arctic biome. I know
I
you.
was actually just about to grab that. Yeah, so I'm making snowflakes to replace the ice crystals in the snow biome. This is the actual mesh in Godot. It's gonna have a really cool shader on it. It's gonna look sweet. It's gonna look a lot better and a lot more real.
Already looks pretty good.
Indeed.
Nice. Very nice. It's probably for the better because it's more. Everybody sees what it is. It's not as cryptic.
Yeah, because ice crystals don't actually form like little shards. They form hexagons, and from there it can basically do a fractal into snowflake.
Yeah.
So it's
smart.
It's the same underwater as above the water.
Yeah, it would be unless the water, is obviously cold. That would
okay.
affect the ice. But yeah, because water molecules, when they come together, they form hexagons. It's a solid.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
but
why
it's definitely
snowflakes
more
look the way they do.
with snowflakes.
Love your work, Nuns. It's always pretty.
Yeah, and then I'm doing the thermoplast. Those aren't really ready yet. But I did do the shader for them. So basically, hold on, I'll show you. You'll have your thermoplast, and let's say you're somewhere cold. It won't it'll just be normal, right? Like it'll just be brown or orange or whatever. Here, I'll show you a picture. It'll look like that. But if you're somewhere hot, where you're getting plenty of heat and therefore energy, it'll glow and you'll emit light, like a little soft glow. You'll look more like this.
That's going to be exciting. It's the first organelle, as far as I'm aware, that changes its state like this.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think it's also
it's a
the
really
first one.
simple shader. It just messes with the emission, but it's effective.
I also think that the thermosynthesis is going to be the first, or the thermoplast is going to be the first like theoretical organelle added to the game.
Yeah, it's going to be the first non-lock, or I can't remember what the acronym means.
Live.
Life as we know it. That's it. Or was it life as?
Life as we know it.
Yeah, okay, that was
Good
correct.
question. There's an I missing. life as we know.
Okay, I continue, Buckley.
Right, so that's that. Is there
And
anything
just-
else we'd like to show off?
Just to clarify, that's just the membranes for the thermoplast, right, Nuns?
Yeah, and also the there's something inside of the thermoplast that'll glow as well. And also, I want to make it so the membrane will, like jiggle as it heats up. But that'll be like if I can. Like I'm
That would be
not
great.
gonna go too insane.
So, is the change from not glowing to glowing going to be gradual and based on
Yes.
how? Oh,
It's
wow.
it's completely controlled by like like a sliding scale.
That's even
Like there's
better.
a maximum and a minimum. You can be
Wow.
anywhere in between there, according to your heat.
Cool.
I think it's like thermal temperature.
And just to clarify, if you have high temperature or low temperature, it doesn't mean you're going to be producing energy. Your energy is based on whether you're changing your temperature. So if you're heating up or cooling down, that's when you're actually producing ATP.
Yeah, that's how the organelle works.
Oh, wow. That's even more. It's going to be even more dynamic for the gameplay. So, are you producing
Sure.
as much energy when you cool down as when you heat up?
Yeah, because it's only based on the difference. So if you're heating up a certain same energy as cooling down.
Cool.
But I think if we add that feature and it's visible enough, I don't think we need to make it visible to the player how hot other places are, because you would get a feeling for the heat of where you are.
Yeah, right. And if you don't have that organelle, the temperature is basically meaningless to you. So we don't have to communicate it to players who don't have that organelle.
I think it's also planned that temperature slowly moves around, so you can't just sometimes if you stay in one place, you'll slowly gain energy, but it won't be enough.
Not to mention, once you get more heat energy, you'll have to cool down in order to start getting energy again.
Yeah, you can't just cool down forever, heat up forever. You have to be moving around.
It's definitely a pretty different experience from most other organelles, so that's what makes it exciting. It should be a more unique experience for players to try out.
Hopefully coming soon.
Hopefully.
So
Is there
look,
anything?
I have another question. There's also a prokaryotic organelle planned for this, isn't there?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Thermosynthesis.
All right.
The reasoning for that is
Yeah.
continue.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thermosynthesis is slightly less efficient than the thermoplast, so it's better to have it's better to have a thermoplast. But if you don't have this, thermosynthesis is all you.
While it was originally only planned for us to only have the thermoplast, a lot of theories seem to suggest that thermosynthesis was actually potentially the first means of metabolism for the first cells on Earth, which is why I figured they would need a prokaryotic variant in order to be realistic.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for the prokaryotic one, that thing inside of the thermoplast, I just basically separated that, and that would be the thermosynthesis.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of reading about that to see how that actually works and whatever. So
Yes,
yeah.
I could probably write a research paper on it at this point.
No, yeah, it's just the idea that when you have those hot and cold temperatures, you can cycle through. When it heats up, it releases ATP, and when it cools down, it takes ADP. So you need both hot and cold temperatures to keep producing ATP.
So, is there anything else we'd like to show off? Or shall we move on?
I mean, I could send
First,
in some screenshots of the new binding engines.
That
planned.
would be excellent.
I mean, I actually just messed around a bit. Here,
look at
just
that.
a small screenshot. how it will look like in the editor.
I do love the icon that Naratiza made.
It's quite cool.
And of
Yeah, that
course,
is.
the part itself, made by yours truly, Nuns.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I like it a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna show you guys like the original. It was all pretty. We obviously had to make it simpler for the game because some of you are playing on some ancient computers.
Me.
Let me see.
Especially the people who will see the GLES2 warning pop-up that we added.
Oh yeah, GLES2. That's like I don't even know how you run that.
I believe it's just an implementation of OpenGL, right? Like what your graphics card can run.
Yeah, the graphics drivers are what provide the GLES version, so if you have old Intel, Intel doesn't care, so they don't make good drivers for it.
We have. Let me get another screenshot of the binding agents. But like actually in game.
Let's see.
Yeah, let me search a good one.
Okay, that's like the highest version of it. I don't think we're gonna be using that, but it's very
Nah.
pretty.
I'm
We're
pretty
using
sure
the
that would melt some computers.
We can just make like a at your own risk version, and it just has the highest
Oh no. Just pull out all the stops, huh?
Crisis 4 mode.
Maybe real cells with thermoplasts will survive on that computer then.
Yeah, like
Also-
how the thermoplasts have like 100 different shaders.
Yeah, just making an all-out shader. What's this guy asking? How does it look connected to the cells? What do you mean, the like the binds between the different cells?
Yeah, he's just asking like how does it look when cells are binded?
Oh, well, right now that's up to Fuja, but once we have 3D, it'll be up to y'all. You could do whatever you want. You could even have them fuse a little bit, because with the 3D membranes, I think I explained this a lot in the Discord, but the way it works is you have voxels, and the voxels, they're just points in space that they determine, like they determine the shape of the cell, right? Like the basic shape of it, what space it takes up. And those points,
Indeed so.
there are way too many points to just draw like that, because it would just be too much, and Godot also isn't good with voxels in the first place. So what we do is we use a algorithm called marching cubes, and it iterates over that field of points in space, and it makes triangles connect, and it makes a much lower resolution version of that shape. And then what's cool is you can do stuff like meta balls, which is an equation where you have like two spheres which are functions, and you can take a sum of their fields, and you can make smooth little connections between like different shapes. And that's how it works. And that's all because marching cubes, it traces the function and simplifies it.
Yeah, and it also works in 3D.
Yeah. What's
Quite
nice is
exciting.
it's all universal too. So like when I add the 3D membranes and we have the marching cubes and the voxels, if a programmer wants, he could use that for something else. It doesn't have to just be for membranes, because the higher level code is it's the same algorithm as you'll find on it. It's universal.
If I'm not mistaken, you said you're trying to make it as universal as possible, so it's easy to reuse.
Yeah, that, and it's easier to implement if you do it how everyone else does it. The only stuff that's really weird about it is for cells, I don't want to use any metaballs or convolutionary surfaces, because if you would have a ton of cells and they're constantly reproducing, that would get expensive. It would get bad. But with creatures and stuff where they don't really like change or do anything weird, eh, it'll be fine to use convolutionary surfaces because you're only using it in the editor.
Definitely very cool stuff.
Yeah, they can
Well-
be pre-calculated instead
Exactly.
the cell stage, because the cell reproduction changes like the organelle count, so they need to like redo it all the time.
Do you think this
Yeah,
is gonna
like you-
fix some like membrane problems with organelles sticking out?
It'll fix quite a lot having it 3D.
Mhm.
It'll look cool too. And we could use Godot's physics engine. I think it's called Bullet or something like that. And we could add soft body physics. That's probably for people with better
Yeah.
computers.
Yeah, as long as
That
it
would be
doesn't make
especially useful for binding agents.
Yeah, it's quite a lot to be excited for. I'm so glad we had such talented members on our team. We can get a lot done thanks to them.
Should we move on to the stream questions? We had actually this time one priority question asked before
excellent.
the stream. So yeah, this is the first time.
If we're going to show off artwork, it might be better to do that first. It depends on.
Yeah,
I
probably.
mean,
Oh, you
what do y'all think?
mean the community?
Artwork with commentary, though we don't have to comment on it.
Well, I'm going to answer these two questions because I already put them on stream. So
All right,
I mean,
no problem.
if you prepare the community artwork in the meantime. So Blackjack Psych asked two questions, and the first is which release after 0.5.3.1 will first feature the basic prototype for every other stage, and this is related to something I said that I would do small prototypes of each stage and try to link them together in the main game. And well, I think I'll work on this as the next major big feature in Drive that I'll work on. But I have some pretty intense coursework coming up, and also I've been kind of wanting to do something on the Drive Dev Center, because right now the dev build workflow is actually really slow. It takes like 2 minutes to load the web page. So obviously the use technology there, which was a bit of a risk, it's now a confirmed risk, so it doesn't work very well. So I've been thinking about replacing it.
Is it a
So-
server-side problem?
Sorry?
Is it a server-side problem?
No, actually, I've looked at profiling. So actually, the server responds within like 600 milliseconds with all of the data, but then the client takes like 2 minutes to crunch through JavaScript that tries to process something I don't even know. And because it's recompiled from Ruby with a bunch of stuff and then sent to the client, it's basically beyond my ability to try to fix that, really.
All right.
I think it kind of like fires like a billion change events and tries to process them all before showing the page or something like that, so it takes a long time. But anyway, so the prototypes for all stages are probably maybe going to be done about next summer. That's the best I can say. And then the second question is how founding the association is going, and a bit of a background is that we are now going to try to form a legal entity for Thrive to manage funding and employing people, etc. And basically, me, Buckley, and Nance have filed in the paperwork for founding an association. So currently we are just waiting for it to be processed. If it isn't done like in 2 or 3 weeks, I might have to like try to follow up with it to see what's the status. But it wouldn't surprise me because of Christmas and other stuff that the government agency that processes the applications is just too busy to get around to it yet.
I really don't know anything about Finnish law, but at least in Austria, it's the case that if they don't respond within a time, it's automatically approved. But I have no idea how it is there.
Well, the agency that processes these says on their website that it takes 30 to 40 days to process, so it isn't yet up that time. So there's still like 3 weeks before the end of the deadline.
Yeah.
Anyway, that
Wait,
was.
so just to ask about the first question, you asked about like making basic prototypes. So you plan on making prototypes for multicellular in the next release, or like for every stage?
For every stage, but I mean, I won't probably hold them back if all of them aren't done, so they'll trickle in multiple releases if I don't get them done very quickly. But I plan to like maybe spend like 2 or 3 weeks per stage at max, because I just want like sort of a skeleton, the entire game done.
Yeah. Okay.
So
wait, so when you have these prototypes done, will it actually like do anything in the game, or is it just code architecture?
I plan to put them in the game so that like there would be a button to go to the aware stage and stuff like that. So maybe you could move around and there would be like some button to unlock technology and place buildings, and sort of like the bare minimum that you can like recognize the stages would be put in the game.
But when we start working on the stage, that's when we're actually going to update the version number, correct?
Once a stage is done, then the version number is updated.
So when we are done with microbe, then we can start change it to 1.0.0. Right?
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
All right. So was that all the patron questions?
Yeah, that was the first and only priority question.
I see. So I suppose we'll move on to the artwork then. Is that all right?
Yep.
All right. So for those of you who are unaware, our community has a monthly art contest where a key term is loaded on and determined to be the theme of the contest, and then you create artwork for the theme and present it for voting. And here I'll present the winners. First up is Jungle Rainforest. That was the theme of this one in July, by Mechanical Pumpkin. It's pretty cool. Has what appears to be some large organism hiding within the rainforest.
Very nice.
And next up we have the contest from June. Its theme was dinosaurs, and this winner was also Mechanical Pumpkin. This time with a lot wide assortment of creatures in what appears to be a field. Or actually, that might be underwater.
Some interesting fish.
Mm-hmm. Next, we had a wonderful piece of artwork. This theme was Ocean in July, and this is made by T-King. A nice pixel art coral reef.
Oh, that's nice.
Very nice, yeah.
Really love that one.
This one was made by The Void for the September contest. Its theme was Resist.
Very good one.
Cool rendering.
That's neat.
Mhm.
This one was made by Bolsa de Supermer 123. Its theme was Isolation in the August competition. It does look isolated. It's quite a pretty scene.
Yeah, the sun or the stars really well
Very
drawn.
eerie.
Next up, we have the October competition. Its theme was Colorful Graceful. And this one is made by Dune Lightning. A colorful bird. Looks like a pigeon. A very pretty pigeon.
Incredible details up there with the feathers on the head. You can see
Indeed
every
so.
single one.
Background is also really well drawn.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just nice.
The matter of perspective is pretty nice too, how the background is blurred to bring attention to the subject matter.
We have some very talented fans.
Next up is another artwork by The Void. Its turn was Powerful in November.
Jesus.
It is indeed powerful.
That's some
Looks like a
pretty
stage.
cool ascension stage speculation.
Yeah.
And finally, we have the December competition. Its theme was Snowy, and this artwork was also made by D Void. Nice pixel art scene.
Mhm.
Oh
Very
yeah,
cool.
a lot of good detail.
Really like
And
the
that
planets.
was very nice, yes. That was all the artwork from the competitions held from the Fred. That concludes it.
Yeah.
Lots
good
of
job to
talented
everyone.
artists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
good
job,
job to everyone.
Good to finally fulfill the promise of showcasing these somewhere.
So that wraps that up. Now we move on to the questions, correct?
Sure.
Correct.
And maybe in a bit I'll show some Drive gameplay. But yeah,
Sounds great.
let's go to the chat questions. I don't think anyone has seen any questions yet, or
Yeah, there's a stream delay, so
Yeah, if anyone has any
Are there
questions,
any
just ask them in the chat and we'll be sure to answer them.
were there any questions in the forum?
I'm seeing one question. How long did I miss this? And the answer is 44 minutes.
When will fluid dynamics be talked about?
I'm not really sure what that means, but
Well, it's at the point where it was like drawn that like these kind of lines will appear on the screen when there are currents in the game, and basically it's waiting for some graphics programmer to say how we can make that and then make that.
looking
Wait,
at
do
nuns.
you guys mean you want like a distortion of like the background or something of where the currents are?
Maybe not the background, but like the entire thing sort of look like flowing water.
Yeah, like a distortion, like kind of like a smudge blur sort of thing.
Well, I mean that's one potential thing, but another was that there would be sort of like moving lines drawn over the game.
I think that's about pretty similar. Wait, so is the code for the currents already done in the sense that like currents are already around you, or do currents only apply to your player position?
There is a current system that applies to the floating chunks, but basically it's like an entire infinite field, which is not optimal for the visual representation. So we might have to like change that to be so that there are currents only somewhere, so it doesn't get too busy on screen visually.
Okay, so this will also require some code refactoring or changing.
Yeah, and then a couple of lines change to make the currents apply to the player as well and other cells.
Alright. Since I need to make a new art comp, what are words what you think are good? I'm
That's
guessing
for
they're talking
January.
about themes here.
For January.
How about coast? Feel like a southern vacation after this winter.
Yeah, same. A lot of good ideas.
Looks like we have a special guest in the podcast channel chat.
Yep, there is Untrusted Life, previous developer of our game. He now works on his own projects, but still pops in from time to time.
And we are still waiting when he will decide to come back to work on some feature for Drive.
You can't run forever. The pact has been signed. You must come back.
How about we answer some more questions in the chat? I can take care of that if you guys want.
Sure, if you like.
Yeah. Let's see. So fluid dynamics. Question: how is development on Planet Generator doing, and how will it affect patch map and compound concentration? So I coded a while ago, like in JavaScript, a planet generator, but it was mostly just a model that doesn't actually do anything. Although patch map generation might be coming soon, no one's starting to work on it yet, but it's something that could be implemented. Anyone have anything to add to that?
I think the patch map generator is in the 0.5.4 milestone on GitHub, so maybe this time someone will pick it up.
I might pick it up, maybe.
With the actual like planet generation itself, though, like the shape, I was gonna handle that once I was done with all this 3D membrane stuff. If all goes well, should be in by the 5.4 release. But I can go over that if you guys want, like how that would work, because I already know I'm gonna do it.
Wait, I think we decided that we're going to be making the patch map separated from the generated world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it will be much easier now to make some kind of procedural patch map generator, which will make the gameplay more interesting because the planet isn't always the same. And that will be much easier to make before trying to like...
See that? That's kind of the thing with the planet. The mesh, like the base mesh, is actually the same no matter what the shape of the planet. But it's like the features of the planet that are different. But the actual like mesh, they're all the same mesh. It's just a distortion that are different on the planet meshes. And the way it works is it's do you know what an icosahedron is? Like an icosphere?
I think that's like
It's essentially like it's an extremely triangular sphere, and its purpose in geometry is at its lowest subdivision, each corner it correlates with a pentagon, and when you subdivide it in between those pentagons, hexagons would fill. And when you have like a subdivided icosahedron, each vertex, besides 12 of the vertexes, would be hexagons. So you could have a hex grid on a planet, and it would be perfectly like tiled. It would be the same no matter how much you distort, you know, the planet with height maps or whatever, because the way it subdivides is the same.
Okay,
And it
I
makes
think we can.
perfectly tiled hexagons.
I think we can move on. Okay. What are your guys' current plans for promoting the game and gaining publicity?
I actually have a plan. I'm going to post on the game dev classifieds and I need a team subreddits tomorrow, because it's been like 3 months, 4 months since our last Reddit advertisements.
Mhm.
Yeah, and for everyone watching, if you join our Discord or subscribe to the YouTube channel, that always helps. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay. I cannot remember what's the difference between awakening and aware. I think the main difference off the top of my head is awakening is when you first get neuron cells, and aware is when you start gaining consciousness.
I have
I thought it was backwards.
yeah. That's
Wait.
I think that's that's
Wait, let
also
me-
the thing,
let me
because awakening is like you awaken to like realize that you are a conscious being, like your brain power is high enough to realize that. And then aware is
Yeah.
when you have a brain that can perceive the environment at all. So
Wait. It's okay. On the official site, it says the stages go microbe, multicellular, aware, and then awakening.
yes, that's correct, because aware is that you have basic brain, and awakening is you have bunch of brain power.
Yeah, like consciousness or whatever. Okay. Next question. After cell stage is finally complete, will you move on to a creature stage, or will you, like the pre-spore we know, like have a sea creature stage before a land stage? I think the plan is that after we finish the microbe, and get the binding agents, we start working on multicellular, so that can transition onto land or sea.
It will start in the sea because you have been playing in the sea, so there won't be a cutscene and bam, you are on land now.
Cells
Yes.
are generally found in aqueous environments.
Yeah, no
Plus,
cringy
getting on
cutscenes
land
here.
is actually like pretty difficult. That required a lot of evolution.
To me,
That could be a challenge when we have the multicellular stage. Who can get from the first multicellular stage to the land the fastest?
I mean, I am the speedrun king.
I've looked it up. There isn't. Thrive is not a game on speedrun.net yet.
I think I completed in 2 minutes when there was that spawning glitch. Too bad I patched it myself.
Just code a little secret code combination where you can get like more speed and stuff.
Yeah.
And just abused it for speedruns.
Yeah. Okay. Let's continue.
Funny thing, when I tried out the binding agents, if you oriented your cell just right after binding to a cell, you would get propelled at very high speeds.
Yeah.
There's a speedrun strat right there.
All right. Okay.
Not
When will
perfect,
compound clouds when will compound clouds be reworked to be affected by microcurrents? I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
I think that's one of the things that the current system does affect. I might be wrong, but I think there is code in there too.
I do recall the.
No, yeah, continue.
I do recall someone saying that the compounds are already affected by currents. Is that incorrect?
Now that I'm trying to remember, I think the compound system has like a separate noise channel thing that affects how the compounds spread. So it kind of has currents in them, but they don't match the other currents that are in the game, but I think they
I
should be
see.
there.
Okay. When will all the stages? As I said before, we plan on, or HH plans on putting the stages or prototypes in, maybe not next release, but sometime. And we don't know when the stages will actually be worked on. Okay, with binding agents, the dev builds showed them stiffly connecting to one another. Will there be any point where they sort of squish together? I think nuns can answer that question.
Like, will the cells like come together like visually, like the 3D membranes?
I think he means like they're kind of rigid, like the cell membranes are the same and they just kind of touch each other. So he means like when you put them together, will they kind of have a squish together?
Yeah, that could be done. That wouldn't be impossible. Like that. The only thing I could see really limiting that is if you're someone with a very not good computer, your cells would be like your membranes would be really low detail, like low triangles. It would look like the thing in the chat, and there wouldn't be much of a squish that you would notice, and you also probably wouldn't be able to run the soft body physics from the bullet engine.
Right. Let's continue.
If you
When
had
will 0.5.4 be released? Do you know, HH?
In about 3 months. I tentatively put a date in March. That's about 3 months plus 1 week away.
All right. When is the Thermoplus going to be added? Okay, so I'm in charge of that. Okay. The code for it is kind of done. I just need the model from nuns, and then I need to actually balance it and probably code review. So I don't know, maybe like a month or something if I work on it. Less if I actually get back on it. Okay, what are all the stages? Micro, multicellular, aware, awakening. What was after? Awakening. I think it's society, and then industrial space. Okay.
And then Ascension.
Yeah. Ascension I don't think is official yet. Like,
Oh,
okay.
hello there, Codnu.
hello, Crodnu.
Hello.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. Is Thrive VR a future possibility, provided it's in first person?
I mean, it's probably possible. Rod Engine probably will add VR support at some point, so we might be able to work in a VR mode, but that won't be like the focus. And for example, the microbe stage is probably going to be pretty interesting to try to squeeze that into a VR game.
Yeah.
Just poke the surface with your finger so your cell follows it. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that the cell stage in VR would be so that you like stand on top of your cell and use controllers to control which way like the
Oh boy, cell surfing.
yeah the cell
Ascension
would go.
stage sounds fun with VR.
Yeah, you just become a god. Okay. Next question. Will the game have difficulty settings like easy, normal, and hard? I think we're right now just trying to make sure the game is balanced in general. But when we have that sorted out, I think we can make it a little bit harder and easier.
Yeah, there is actually an open issue on GitHub. Someone asked that like 2 or 3 years ago, and we went fine. Yeah, probably at some point we'll have easy and hard modes.
Okay, let me see.
But probably not for some time because we are having difficulty getting the normal expected experience to be well balanced.
Okay.
kinda
Would a
have to
society
establish
at
the
Roman level
baseline.
would a society at Roman level development be tribal or industrial stage? I think it's society stage, but yeah. Probably society. I'm not sure really about that question.
It might be a sort of a transition.
Because we're trying to make it like less rigid, where you just have some cringy cutscene and then you're in a new stage.
Yeah, we won't have that. So basically, each stage will begin at some specific point, but you won't probably notice it. So industrial stage is probably like the first steam engine. When you make that, bam, you're in the next stage, but you won't be able to really tell.
Like everything is kind of smooth. Kind of like it's working now. So.
Okay, I think I lost my place where the questions were. Give me 1 second. Any of the devs thinking of joining the... Nope. Can I make a civilization and thrive that when they advance with computer technology, they decide to make a game called Thrive?
Would be a fun Easter egg.
Yeah, if you have a good enough computer, sure, try it.
I'll start playing Thrive in the background now. I'll try to like get the volume.
Okay, I'll just keep answering questions while you set that up. How will you develop neuron cells? I think
that's definitely something we'll have to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably gonna have a way to develop all kinds of cells, and neurons are be one of those.
Neurons, though, those mark almost the end of the multicellular stage, don't they?
What parts?
Indeed so.
What parts of this game
neurons
are inspired by Spore? I think the general idea of evolution from cell to space is a Spore inspiration, but we try to be as scientifically accurate as we can be. Okay. Will there be any land-based biomes for the single cellular stage? I'm not sure. Does anyone have an answer?
It would be interesting, but I don't know how evolution beyond that would work in such biomes.
There was someone who asked that on the forum, so I don't think it got
my
much
internet's cutting out.
attention. But basically,
What
the
has
idea
been
was that some microbes survive in the earth, dirt. So why not in the cell state? So, but basically, I think that's not really something we should aim to add in the game as
And
a
for anyone
priority.
And for anyone wondering what HH is doing right now, he's showing off the new cell process feature where you can see all the processes going on in your cell.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What has been the biggest technical problem so far in the development of Thrive so far?
Engine problems in third-party libraries, and in the Godot version, the objects disposed problem that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of physics problems and whatnot.
Oh yeah, the physics engine lockup and other stuff like that. So there are some serious engine bugs, and then bugs where we don't like really know how we should work with the engine, or an engine bug wasn't the disposed objects thing.
Yeah, and the spawn systems are definitely have been a problem for a while. Okay, how will the game tackle the evolution? Huh?
As in, auto evo also been something that people are trying to like figure out. I know I've seen that a lot on the dev.
Well, I mean the population simulation aspect is difficult because you need to come up with some algorithm that will simulate 100 million years of cells doing stuff.
Okay.
And that
how will the game continue.
That will be pretty hard to do. But the auto evo framework and how it will like test things out, I mean that's basically done. So like that isn't a problem, but like coming up with the math to figure out how will this species fare against this another one, that's the difficult part.
I think Buckley's internet just crashed.
All right. I'm just going to continue. Okay. How will the game tackle the evolution of different body plants? Like, for example, when you are creating as one species, how will the game create those around you? I think that's just a question about the auto evo. If I'm not mistaken, some cells kind of copy what you're doing until they branch off, and then they just use like RNG to make their own cell.
I
Yeah,
think currently it's just like whenever you reproduce, you also make like splits of yourself.
yes, that's how it works currently, but I mean, hopefully we'll come up with some proper algorithm for species splitting in the future that will work nicely.
Okay. And how did you overcome it? Okay, that's relating to the biggest technical problem. Well, we haven't overcome the physics lockup yet, but I think there's a pull request by Cronnu on something about it.
We reported one physics issue to Godot and they have fixed it. I think the 4.0 release will have that fix and all of the
Hello?
Hello, Buckley. We
Welcome
can
back.
hear you.
My internet went out.
Ha!
Yeah,
Political
well,
glitch.
glad to have you back. Okay. Wait, can someone put all the stages in order? We already did that. He got the speedrun record and then patched it to protect his record. Well, I mean,
that's
even I can't get a new record.
exactly right.
Yep. Okay. If this game is anything like Spore, you know people are going to create cursed stuff. Yeah, that's a given.
Hey, on the bright side, your world is not going to be populated by phallic creatures. Unless that's apparently some kind of superior life form that we don't know about.
It's like mathematically optimal.
Oh
I read
no.
something where everything keeps evolving into crabs, so we'd probably have a ton of crabs.
Carcinization, I think is what it's called.
And like we eventually figure out the perfect life forms, and then we like bio.
Phallic crabs.
Okay. How are fluids visualized as they are so ubiquitous? Half-life and a shader. Okay, that's a shader question. I'm curious. I think you can answer that, Nuns.
What was the question? I can't.
How are fluids visualized as they are so ubiquitous? And then it's like Half-Life, Alex's shader rendering to simulate fluid inside objects, if you are familiar, is a cool method, but I'm curious how it is handled.
Well, what does he mean? Like in the cell stage, or like when we have a 3D creature in water? Because generally, how a lot of games try to cheat like the physics of water, like the look of it, is they use shaders that mess with normals on like a plane or wrapper, and it'll make little waves and stuff that distort your view and make the imitation of water displacing.
All right.
Which normals, for those of you that don't know what that means, normals are when you have geometry on a computer program or game, that's the way it like projects its colors in light. So you can actually manipulate that very easily actually through shader.
HH, do you mind explaining the compound balance thing on the right?
Yeah, I already exited the editor, but I can probably get back there. But
Oh yeah, have you
okay,
shown off the
I got back in the editor, so this compound balances thing is new now, and basically it calculates that what would happen if all of your processes run at the same time, and what's the final compound amount. So you can try to make it so that you generate enough glucose with your thylakoids to balance it out.
Very neat, because it's usually hard to see what you're producing that isn't ATP. Okay, continuing. We already have Ascension stage, right? You just have to stay at cytoplasm throughout the game. Yeah, that's a pretty overpowered strategy. Do you have any thoughts on how player species will compete with the other computer-generated species on an evolutionary scale? I mean, that's just what auto Evo is. It's just trying to make the opponent as good as possible. Could they will add more energy sources that can be converted to glucose and ATP? Okay, so I'm guessing they're asking, are there going to be more organelles that convert glucose and ATP? Well, I mean, the conversion of glucose to ATP is just respiration, if I'm not wrong. So, I don't think so, unless I'm missing something.
I'm fairly sure you're correct.
Maybe they meant what are possible additions to the creation of glucose, like organelles that make glucose. I don't know. That question would make more sense, but maybe
About new energy sources.
You know, someone did bring up the possibility of making its glucose production a sort of separate process, so everything would generate ATP. Then you'd have a part that would just turn excess ATP into glucose. It's definitely would be an interesting consideration.
Okay, let's see. Just some discussion about ascension stage. The background looks so pretty, but the clouds and cells look out of place. I mean, we're trying to improve the background also, just get more shaders and stuff.
I finally also opened an issue to try to make the clouds look like they did in 0.3.4.
Why did they look better back then?
I think like the shader and rendering method for them was just like better. They had like much more texture to them. The Berlin noise applied to them was like higher, so there would be like empty spots even in like very concentrated clouds. So it looked like much better instead of just like a colored blob.
Well, can't we just like restore them, those old files, and then convert it to the Godot shading language?
It was done with a Ogre multi-pass layers, and that basically meant that for each compound the layers would be like rendered again and again, and that wastes a bunch of time. So actually the new method is 4 clouds are rendered at once, so it's better that way. So you cannot even like restore the old stuff, and then of course like how Godot blends stuff and stuff like that will be visually different than what Ogre did. But I suppose like trying to start off with the math from the old shaders might be a good way to try to get back to them.
All right, let's continue. Okay. Hey Thrive, if I wanted to try to join again, would I be able to, or would I have to wait longer? I think you can reapply whenever you want, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there isn't like a cooldown period or something like that.
No, we're keeping track of when you send an email, and we make sure you can't apply then. I'm just joking. You can apply whenever.
If you send too many emails, you might annoy the application review people, so they will just vote to not accept you each time you try to apply again. So far
Yeah,
that
that's
hasn't
the-
happened.
As long as you keep improving, it should be all good.
Yeah, if you feel confident after rejection, there's nothing stopping you from reapplying.
Always encouraged to get new members. Could there have been byproducts emitted back into the environment? That's an interesting question.
what was it? Byproducts into the environment?
Yeah, like emitting byproducts into the environment. So yeah.
I'd definitely love to see photosynthesizers producing oxygen. That way we could simulate oxygenation events and therefore force players to adapt should that become a thing. That's definitely been planned, and I'd love to see it someday.
Yeah, I'm guessing we could have a way where like it looks at the maybe not like directly emitting it, but maybe like looking at okay, in this generation, every single cell produced this much oxygen, so we can like add a very small amount of oxygen that like stage.
Yeah, so we could probably plug it into the auto evo stuff some way. It already detects what cells consume and uses that and the amount of resources in the patch to calculate how many survive and how well. So it might be a part of that.
Thinking way ahead at this point, but for the organism stage, we'll be able to create airborne creatures. I'm pretty sure that's something that we want to implement at some point.
I sure hope so.
What was the question?
The question was thinking way ahead at this point, but for the organism stage, will we be able to create airborne creatures?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I was thinking that it was the can you like load creatures from other saves or something like that question again, but it wasn't. I just hit the saving bug in the game, so I'm actually going to try to debug this live. I'm not showing my IDE, but
Okay.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Don't leak the source code.
Yeah. It would be truly a shame if someone leaked the source code of Thrive.
Oh no.
yeah, it would be.
Those 400 FPS though.
Okay, will it have achievements? I think there's been some concept on this. I think Narcise made some icons about it.
There are some very nice icons. I especially love Dodo and Dodont. I'll look around if I can find them and post them in the chat.
I remember I stopped playing the game because I was colorblind and I couldn't see the resources on my screen. Do you guys have something to overcome this, like colorblind mode? Yeah, I think I added a colorblind mode like at least like half a year ago.
Yeah,
if you go to the
it should be there.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I think it doesn't matter what graphics card you have; it should run fine. And if you are able to run it, please let me know if there's any problems with it because I'm not colorblind, so I had to use like a virtual tester to see if it looked okay. Let's see. Will it be possible to rush nukes? In the creature stage, will you be able to evolve things like wings that will actually allow you to fly, unlike in Spore where you just fly for a certain period of time?
So basically, you want to be able to do like pitch and yaw where you roll and go up and down and stuff like that, is what he's asking. Not just jumping.
I just posted some of the achievements.
Very well drawn.
So the first one is Dodo. It's the achievement for going extinct. The second one is Dodont. It's the achievement for barely avoiding extinction. And the other ones I'm not too sure, but they're lovely. I think they're made by Narratizer.
Yeah, they're nice. They're sweet.
the third one is named shish kebab. It's if you kill another cell with a pilus, and the last one is for surviving microbe stage on the hardest settings. So I guess that relates back to the question about the settings, about the difficulty settings.
Okay.
If I'm not
It should-
mistaken, there's still an ongoing thread for achievements, Crowdnew.
All right, let's continue. It should be possible to advance to space stage without unifying your planet. There's no reason to think planet-wide unity isn't required. In fact, such unity seems unlikely. Well, I mean, I remember that was required in Spore, but I don't think we'll have to require it.
The whole idea behind that is more about there's like this scientific theory that civilizations in space would be measured by different tiers, and in order to reach like the first tier, where you would be like controlling an entire planet and therefore mostly doing your business in space, it would have to require like you to unify your planet somehow to marshal the resources appropriately. That's where that
Yeah.
thing comes.
Yeah, but I don't think.
But I don't know if we have to go that far in our own game.
Well, I mean, like, our planet isn't even unified, but we still have different countries that can go to space. But it definitely would make it harder if you aren't unified and trying to expand.
Yeah, it's more about like making humongous ships that can go anywhere. Like you can't really do that without the appropriate resources.
Right, let's continue. Curious about limitations there will be on how big your life forms could get, like Brontosaurus level sizes. I know oxygen and gravity could be two big factors.
There'll probably be something that keeps you from Godzilla.
Pretty much just square cube law.
Yeah.
That's basically what osmo regulation cost in the current cell stage is at the moment. Basically, you can't get too big or else you just won't be able to keep up the resource requirement.
Okay. What plans are there for mass extinction events?
That could probably be a part of the difficulty, like in RimWorld.
And I guess the oxygenation events are also at the same time extinction events for a lot of species.
Indeed so.
Okay, someone
Yeah.
mentioned HH is running the game with 400 FPS.
We can advertise it with the high amount of FPS. Like Thrive, the only game that runs 400 FPS
I mean,
in
if
the
you
editor.
are in the editor and don't get 400 FPS, then something is wrong.
Just say like,
Well, you have 200 FPS.
yeah, just delete Windows folder and your PC will run faster. Okay, let's see. How will the creature stage creation work? Any ideas not set in stone? I mean, I don't know. We just
There's like a whole long discussion.
Yeah, I posted them the link to the dev forum thread about the wire editor in the comment section.
okay. Can the first mass extinction event be recreated in Thrive if you evolve photosynthesis? So, as said before, I think it would make sense that like extinction events are like any major changes of the environment and based on the cells that evolve around you, including your species. So, like, if your species never uses photosynthesis, I'm guessing that your planet would never really like have a lot of oxygen.
Yeah, I would certainly like to create some kind of dynamic where the atmospheric gases are dynamic, and when a creature consumes it, it'll reduce the amount of oxygen, just as producers will produce more. So, I'd love to see that in progress, if we can find some way to properly balance it.
Okay. We still have definitely a lot we can go through from the chat. How will the transition to 3D work? I think that the membranes are already in 3D, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they are flat.
Oh, they're flat. But I know that some parts of the game are 3D, right?
All the organelle models and trunks and that stuff is 3D.
Oh, okay.
So
I think that person's referring to, like, I guess the camera. Like, when are we gonna have like a third-person view? And
I
that would
mean,
be
the
mo-
camera's already, I think, in 3D, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, it is a perspective camera already.
Yeah, because one time I was just like playing around and I changed the camera angle, so like it was like kind of 3D. But yeah,
Yeah, so in that case, the question is, when will the camera
the
be?
clouds are Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, just making sure. Okay. How will filter feeding cilia work? And do you think cilia and chemoreceptors and active proteins and junctions can be added through brushing on top of the membrane rather than hexes? So, okay, that was a mouthful. I'm just gonna guess that you mean like, can you have like organelles that aren't actually like hexes, but instead just on the membrane?
That
And
would be a lot to discuss.
it would definitely be
Consider.
complex because then you couldn't treat everything as a hex. You would have to actually have some more logic on that. Or I don't know, maybe you could have it treated as a hex, just not visually show a cytoplasm hex. Definitely a lot of good questions. Yeah, don't want to leak the source code. Can we get a Thrive coding stream? That would be an interesting idea.
I've thought about that, but in the end I thought that it would be pretty difficult to
explain everything.
capture that properly and try to talk while coding. So
well, if you're in the community server, sometimes me or Fujo will be on the one of the voice channels, and then you can see us code for a little bit. So if anyone's ever interested, you can always stop by and check that out. It would be cool to have a coding stream where we see the progress being made in real time. Answer that. Can you calculate aerodynamics and make fluid simulation? Oh, we already answered fluid questions. Is there a roadmap of any kind or a Trello board? Okay,
yes.
so I know that okay, do we have a Trello board?
We use a GitHub Kanban board, which is very similar.
I think we can post a link.
Anyone want to post a link, or should I?
You can post that. I'm gonna answer.
I'll try the auto move key while I look it up.
Yeah, it's just X, right?
Yeah.
I forgot, and I made it. Okay, is there a roadmap of any kind? Okay, yeah, the roadmap. There's also one on the site, the wiki, I think. So, but it's really not that like set in stone. It's kind of just general ideas. The project and the milestones are generally what I would say is a good indication of what actually might be coded in the game.
Yeah, GitHub is gonna be your most reliable source for all.
Okay, what about floating species like balloons? They produce hydrogen or helium as a byproduct and use it to fly. That's a pretty creative idea, but like it has to be scientifically accurate. So if we have any examples or any scientific papers about it, then maybe we would consider it. But if it's just imagination, you could probably have to make a mod about it.
Well, I mean the non-life as we know it mode would be a bit more free in including some scientifically possible things.
How will the game proceed for when the player dies or loses in the multicellular and aware?
I think it was agreed that you would control like one of the other species, right?
Well,
Like if you
I mean,
die.
someone said that would be like easy mode, but so far, that hasn't been added. So I would guess that you continue to like get a population penalty if you die, and if you run out of population, you will lose also in the later stages.
Wasn't there at some time the concept that if your species died out, you would take over the species which is most recent ancestor.
I mean, yeah, but someone would need to code that in.
Yeah,
And
right.
Yeah,
No,
you
I
need
was-
to like modify the loose screen and add like a bigger type of thing that says that hey, you are now going to play as this species. And
Yeah, no, I was thinking like more in the future, but I think there was a thread on it probably years ago.
Okay, so this one Dragons fan is asking, will I be able to evolve the ability to breathe fire? So, as said before, for a lot of like features, if it's not scientifically accurate, there's basically no chance we're gonna add it, or if it's not even like close. But if there is like some scientific way it could happen, then we might add it to the game.
Hello.
Hey, Buckley.
I don't know why my internet decided to just die today.
Weird.
Well,
Okay.
pretty
The
lucky-minded, Daniel.
Let's see. The Kardashev scale doesn't really require unifying the planet. It's more about the species. I think that's what my push to talk is working weird. Yeah, the Kardashev scale. So I think that's relating to what Nuns was talking about. How like you have level 1, you need to control the whole planet, and they just mentioned how you need. It just means your species needs to control the whole planet. You don't need to be unified.
Yeah, I guess that could make sense.
I mean, for us, I think it's easier to just like put a condition that you need to unify your species. And well, I mean, one explanation I came up with is that it's pretty hard to have a interstellar empire if you have like rebels on your planet that blow up your capital regularly.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty true.
Some sparking mechanism and means of producing the combustible would be necessary. Oh, okay, that's just talking about the dragon thing. In the space or ascension stages, will it be possible to manipulate life on other planets, like GMOs?
Oh, like messing with like editing creatures on other planets and stuff. I think they.
That would be a cool idea.
That could be a fun feature.
You mean for the
stages?
ascension stage?
Yeah, that's what they were at.
How many stages are somewhat playable at the moment? So you can only play the microbe stage right now. Binding agents are planned to be added in the next release, 0.5.3.1. So that's like early multicellular. It's not even multicellular yet, but it's definitely leading up to it. And as mentioned many times before, HH is planning on making very basic prototypes for each stage. But as it currently is, you can only play with one cell.
This is actually pretty typical programming experience here, right? For you, everyone. I had to restart the game to put in some code that would allow me to like see the actual exception when it happens. And now the error is not showing up at all.
I think it's when you save in the editor. Try saving now. Ah, hey. The
Will
screen
players
delay, yeah.
Will players be warned that it'll be impossible to progress as an underwater civilization, or will they find out for themselves? Yeah, let's just have it. If they try to make an underwater civilization, they just like their computer crashes and gets shut down just the whole time.
I mean, that's
We
one
just format
choice.
the C drive.
And the Windows 32 folder gets deleted.
Yeah, that might be actually suitable punishment for the people who make the underwater threads on the forums.
Yeah, it like detects your username, and if it matches someone who mentioned it, you just instantly like delete the Windows folder. I think that's the only fair choice. Okay.
In reality, though, it's probably like you cannot just get further technologies. At some point, you'll find out that without the technology of fire, you cannot get any further technologies, so you are stuck until you get out of the sea.
And if there's any like
It's our great and underwater fire.
just make sure that if anyone gets close to like
I guess answering the question, you would just find out.
No, I think
And
like if
that's
there's like, thermal vents, you would just have it so your species would just get harmed if it went close to it, so you couldn't even smelt anything. Okay.
Actually, someone suggested that the underwater species could make thermite, was it? Aluminum oxide and iron oxide or non-oxide, but basically that stuff burns underwater. But the only problem is that you need industrial processes to refine the stuff you need for that, so still no underwater fire for you.
yeah.
Maybe you
But yeah, to
Okay, so
answer their question, I think it would just be you'll find out that you can't progress. I don't know if there's gonna be an actual warning for it.
okay, Christonian the Great asks, underwater societies should be possible. It should just be impossible to create industry/fire underwater. Uh, the topic
Yeah.
about underwater civilizations has been like talked about since the beginning of time. So there's been a lot of discussions, and it's been like concluded we can't have any like metal molding or whatever. So yeah.
So you'd be stuck in like what is it, the awakening stage, where
Yeah,
you're
something
like
like that.
tribal peoples.
Yeah, Stone Age, probably.
Okay, could there be some big cells or something in the background to make the world feel more alive? I think that's a good idea. I mean, we already have an issue to make the background look better, and I think that's something that could be added some way.
Oh, I mean, like cells that don't really exist, but that just flow around in the background.
The only way I could think of doing that is like getting one random species and then like somehow rendering it without actually like rendering it, and then just apply it as a texture, and then like in the background, and have it like lower transparency and wavy or whatever.
Godot actually has a way to do that. If I'm remembering correctly, in Godot you can use a viewport to create a texture. So you could have a cell, like just a random species from the game, and you could
Ah,
create a
okay.
viewport over it. You could create a texture from that, and from there, someone clever could code it to show up in the background shader.
Okay.
Well, you need to code that viewport thing, but yeah, I
Yeah,
remember reading
it's
the
all
same
code.
documentation when I was thinking how we could generate like images of the other species. So basically create a parallel scene and put that cell in there and render it to a texture.
Okay, that's
What,
cool.
Yeah.
what did you guys say? I didn't catch that about reading something from Godot.
Godot has a feature where you can create a viewport, like a viewport node. And if you have, like, say a cell underneath of that viewport you created, you can render that to a texture. Like, there's a way to do it through code in Godot. But someone would obviously have to code that, lay all that out and design it.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. Okay, what about hypotheticals? Because thermoplasts are really hypothetical as well. As we said, there needs to be some kind of scientific backing if it's hypothetical. And yeah.
Yeah, like, I
Online,
think it just has to make sense.
yeah. On, online mode where Ascension stage players mess with cell/multi-cell creature. Yeah, I mean, multiplayer would definitely be a very fun thing to code. Okay, but it's definitely not coming soon. It isn't possible.
Having some way to have the other players drop in to join another as a sort of play with them as another species would be pretty interesting.
I mean, it would definitely require us to have some code for like server and stuff, because once it's multiplayer, you have to actually have like authentication or whatever, so you don't have like hackers.
That's true.
Godot seems to have some kind of server implementation. Not sure how good it is.
I mean, it's a good thing that the engine is open source, so we can always make suggestions and extend upon it.
Godot, the way it works, if you want to add stuff to it, you have to make a module. So if we ever get to a point where, Godot for whatever reason just isn't serving our needs, we're gonna have to write mine. Which that's all C++.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in C++. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Is there any concepts on how the organism editor will decide what changes you make would be considered too large evolutionary? I don't think so. I mean, already, I mean, already you can't make like a huge cell because you would just die, unless of course the cell is big enough. So, or not big enough, sorry. Like if it was actually able to survive. So I think that's the only way you can really check, which I think is probably the best. Because I mean, if your cell is really big but it can survive, there's not really something like physically stopping you.
Progress update on the saving problem. I now realized why my one fix doesn't actually work, because it tries to catch the wrong type of exception. So now I changed that and put some breakpoints there. So if it happens a third time, then I'll actually see the actual objects that are causing the problem.
Great stuff.
Okay, let's see. Will there be a free play mode where you just create a cool creature cell without any challenge, kind of like a creative mode? Well, we already have.
Oh, you already had that.
Yeah, we already have a free play.
So you don't have.
It's under tools.
Yeah. You have unlimited mutation points, so you can just create whatever you want, and then you can always go back to the editor in case you want to.
And that's how people make the monstrosities in the Discord.
I have very limited coding experience, but I'm good at 3D modeling and visual rendering. Is there anything I can do to help to contribute? Well, 3D modeling and all that stuff is definitely still some stuff we need, even if you aren't the best programmer.
Yeah, just join and come on the graphics channel.
Yeah, I mean, if you have some projects or whatever, you can definitely apply and link those projects. And if we think that you know what you're doing, we can add you to the team. We definitely need more help with graphics and rendering, all that stuff. It basically all lies on Nun's shoulder as of now.
What with Nun's recent works, you might actually have to revamp the old organelles.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that.
So having some help with that would be pretty nice.
Yeah, another thing is I want to add a LOD system, which Godot actually has a framework for it. Like if you have a 3D model and your computer is trash and it can't run like really detailed models or even not very detailed models, an LOD system would make it to where you can make them even simpler because it would have saved iterations that are more simple. And you can go in your graphics settings and make things either more high detail or less detail, which I'm sure that would interest a lot of you.
HH, would you be able to showcase like work in progress features like binding agents?
I just made some uncommitted changes to the exception handling, so I mean I could undo those, but my breakpoints would be gone and there's stuff like that happens.
Okay, I understand.
So it would be a bit annoying to switch branches right now.
Are you guys the coolest devs ever for answering every question we have? Spoiler, it's yes.
Aww.
They're
Dang,
gonna come up with really bad questions we can't answer.
dang,
Uh-oh.
dang, you missed the opportunity to call it the Thrive stream.
I mean, we have missed that like 7 times in a row already.
Yeah, I think we're not trying to like overdo references.
It's today we were streaming Thrive Hub with our Thrive code in our Thrive stream with the Thrive devs for Thrive.
Yeah, on board, which is where we're holding the Thrive cast right now.
Thrive.
Okay. Will organelles be unlocked through some method, or will they all be available from the start? Like how they... Well, you can't get eukaryotic or membrane-bound organelles if you don't have a nucleus. So,
You know,
yeah.
organelle unlocks has been a topic with some discussion, but we haven't really determined anything with substance yet. I'm not sure if we really want to go through with it, but it's definitely something we're discussing.
Also,
Yeah,
if
'cause
we add the endosymbiosis feature, then most organelles will be like procedurally generated.
Okay, and
Anyway.
Indeed so.
like
the
if we wanted to
3D
go the
rendering
realistic route,
okay, and the 3D rendering guy said they'll apply, which is nice to hear.
nice.
That's great to hear. We can always use more people on the graphics team.
We can always use more. Period.
What purpose would bioluminescent
Oh no.
Oh,
yeah. What purpose would bioluminescent vacuoles serve if they can't detect light?
Please tell me if you know, because I certainly don't at the moment. That's been a large debate for a while now, and we haven't quite come up with anything.
that would be more useful in multicellular, honestly.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
I feel like that shouldn't even be in the normal microbe stage.
But at the same time, lots of microbes, and like dinoflagellates, for instance, do have bioluminescence in the natural world. So
Yeah, but it's like that's usually so they can interact with things larger than themselves. I think like
yeah,
they don't really have an ability to use light, really.
So it sounds like you want to make a more freeform 3D creature editor versus Spore. What ideas do you have to not get stuck in the same trap as Spore, where to animate they need to keep things simple?
well, we're gonna have to keep some kind of skeletal system.
Well, for animation, the basic concept is you need bones, just like a real living thing. And so Spore, they did that because it actually is only one script that handles every single animation in the game. And the way it basically works is when you put feet on a thing in Spore, those feet have they have an arc that they go in, and they always do it. It's never different. And the your legs, it has like predetermined bones in it, and they just kind of flex as your foot moves, like procedurally. And because that could obviously result in you creating some weird setups, they limit you as to reduce graphical glitches.
Oh no, I got the saving error now probably in the debugger, but Mono actually crashed entirely, so
Oh my
I lost the
goodness.
debugging session.
Okay. Will there be a Sporepedia-esque feature where you see your creature you made? Call it like Thrivepedia. Or
Thrivepedia with the Thrive stream, the Thrive.
I mean, yeah, I think at that point we could actually like name it something Thrive related. Just don't want to go like crazy. We should have like a language to this Weblate server, which is called like Thriveling, and every string is replaced with Thrive, like Thrive related.
Oh, who did we just lose? Oh,
I was nuts. Okay, seems like people are saying nice things about the game and are excited.
very
About the
nice. Yes.
All right, I gotta hop off soon. If anyone has any last minute burning questions for me,
I mean, we are probably going to end the stream in like 10 minutes max.
Yeah, we
We,
pretty much covered everything.
we usually end at the 2-hour mark.
Thanks for sticking with us, nuns. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Any,
We're gonna at least do this one thing.
If anyone has any last minute questions, now would be the time.
I have a question. Why does this happen? Why does Mono Debugger actually want to just kill itself sometimes when I try to look at object data?
I don't know.
I mean, on VS Code, the mono debug seems to work pretty fine for me.
Yeah, also have no problems with the Thrive mono debugger.
I mean, I've had this like multiple times. When you try to like inspect a disposed object, it somehow goes into the Godot engine code in the native code and somehow like seg faults in there.
I know that HH would rather die than use VS Code for development. Okay, let's see. When will the procedural patch maps as planet generator be a thing? Well, the procedural patch map is added as a on the 0.5.4 milestone, so we plan to have it on that release, but it's not a guarantee. But planet generation is something that definitely is bigger scale, and we have no idea when that's going to be implemented.
Planet, I'm probably not even going to start that until 0.5, honestly. That's definitely not going to be next release or anything like that.
So I just like got the error again and went up to 3, and there is one keyword here that I saw, AI, which now actually keeps references to the other like stuff, like the floating chunks and other cells. And actually, yeah, this is probably where the disposed stuff is happening. So when a cell or stuff is like removed from the game world, the AI code is not told about it. So it keeps a reference there. So this is actually strike back of the untrusted life AI code now breaking the game saving.
Okay.
I think I'm actually going to like give the AI some amnesia or something. Fix this.
Okay. Man, I gotta brush. Okay, yeah. If you want to help programming, we always could need more programmers, or really anyone, but definitely programming is something that is in demand right now.
Definitely a good way to learn.
Yeah. When I played
I've actually learned a lot about the Godot engine. That
Yeah,
helped
same.
me.
I never used Godot before this project. I kind of like it though.
I've learned a lot too. Yeah, it's a lot of there to be.
And actually, that helped me to find a thesis project. I think it's thesis is on English, is it?
Will the Seed Cave have anything other than absolute swaths of toxic clouds? There seems like to be a slight generation issue for hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, we also have a problem with the cave and the, what is it called? Like the ice. What's it called? The ice.
Arctic biome.
Yeah, Arctic biome.
I think it's just
both of them
Arctic.
yeah, both of them have to have like a lot of iron, but like none is spawned. Either like all despawns really quickly, or some other issue. So we need to fix that sometime. Yeah, Thrive is coded in C#, and we use Ruby scripts for like compiling and testing and stuff. Or yeah.
Not really compiling, but actually like packaging the releases, making dev builds, and of course like those code checks go through a script.
It is compiled obviously with Godot and then some C# compiler, but to like create releases you need to use those Ruby scripts. But yeah, mostly testing. And the launcher is made, it's an Electron app, so we use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Yes, it's good to get that out once every stream at least. And Mono Debugger just actually crashed for me again. So basically, if you try to inspect contents of an object that is disposed, and it is a like Godot type. Like here, I'm trying to look at the contents of a microbe object, and as soon as I like expanded it in the debugger and saw a bunch of object disposed exceptions on a bunch of the properties, and then it was like 1 second and debugger is dead.
When it crashed.
Yeah, like the game crashes entirely, and the debugger says that yeah, it basically died. But this is actually better than when I tried mono develop, which would actually crash the entire development environment. At least Rider doesn't crash itself, but it's not very useful when the debugging session is dead, so you cannot actually inspect anything anymore. But basically, yeah, I think I confirmed that the microbe AI object holds references to disposed objects, and that causes a bunch of problems. So basically, yeah, I'll probably like remove the memory or like saving from those list of microbes and other stuff in the microbe AI, and then someone who comes and works on the AI again then can put that back in if they want, but there needs to be a system for all of the objects to notify the AI that I'm now dead, remove me from here.
Do you think that the debug problems are from Mono or from Godot?
I don't really know. Maybe it's a combination, because it seems like the debugger tries to execute the Godot native code that tries to get all the properties from the object, but if it is disposed, it is like in some invalid state on the C++ side in Godot, and trying to access those properties through the debugger runs some code inside Godot that crashes. So yeah, probably Mono plus Godot problem there.
So someone asked how long until cellular stage is done. I think that's a good time for me to ask. When we're done with the stage and we start working on, let's say, like multicellular, does that mean we were basically like done updating microbe stage, or do you think we might keep adding like small features?
I think we'll definitely keep adding small features. At least we won't be like preventing people from doing that. So while the focus might change to the next stage, people who aren't entirely happy with the previous one or stuff like that can still add stuff, but things that like really affect the stage transition are a bit more difficult at that point to change anymore, because it affects the future stages as well.
So basically, we'll have our base game. We'll have all the major features, and then that'll be, if I'm understanding correctly.
It seems like we're out of questions.
Yeah, it's probably good time to stop, because we are coming up on the 2-hour mark pretty soon. So
2 hours. Ooh, that time really flew by.
So I suppose we'll be wrapping things up now.
yeah, sure.
Guys, excited for 5.4?
Yeah. I hope to be back and start finishing what I started and add some new stuff.
All right.
Yeah, definitely something to look forward to. Let's say bye, and let's end the stream.
I see you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching our stream. I'm glad you could make it. I hope you are satisfied with your questions and answers, and look forward to the next time.
Thanks to the viewers who asked great questions and made it a nice experience. See you, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.